So, welcome to the first episode, I suppose, of Work Hard, Get Lucky. Today I'm joined by co-founder Ashley Dunbar of Cloud2 Consult. How the devil are you, mate?
Superb. Thank you for asking.
Nice, you look very chilled out, mate.
Yeah.
Very, very relaxed.
I thought it's going to be a relaxed, informal podcast.
Absolutely not, mate. This is actually an interview.
Damn.
Ash comes from quite a rich background in recruitment. I suppose the best way to kind of kick it off is for you, Mr. Dunbar, to give a bit of an overview of you, yourself, your background, and go from there, really.
I'll keep it short. I'll try to anyway. Yeah, 15 years in recruitment. Been an amazing journey. Mostly with one business. Started as a recruitment consultant. I'd come with previous leadership experience working in real estate prior to getting into recruitment. Always aspired to get back into leadership, and but I had to spend a few years cutting my teeth, learning the trade, creating some wins, performing well to get the opportunity, and then went on a big career curve of kind of growing out divisions and teams, and ended up being the managing director of a tech recruitment business covering Europe, mainly UK and Germany. 15 years there, and that came up to an end of last year. You were part of that journey when I was at that company, one of my shining stars, one of my best hires. Stayed with me, and then you ditched me, went to do your own thing.
Sorry about that.
We worked together for 5 years, kept that conversation going on and off over the years, and we find ourselves back working together, which is exciting.
I suppose it all kind of kicked off on the golf course, didn't it? I think
best place for it.
Yeah, exactly. 4 hours of just chatting. Whereas, I think you were just saying that you were potentially looking at something new, and was sort of discussing about different avenues and where it could happen. And I think it's quite exciting to see what Cloud2 Consult is doing now, because it's a completely separate business to Into Consult, but still part of the Into Consult family. Do you want to give a bit of an overview of, I suppose, what Cloud2 Consult do?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose when we first met at the golf course, it was an idea that's, I suppose, shaped over lots of conversations. But back when I first started recruiting, I worked for the Microsoft markets, and they've evolved over the years. And one of the kind of key product stats they've evolved into is ERP, so Enterprise Resource Planning solutions for clients of all different sizes. So basically implement systems to drive operational efficiency, whether that be through processes or systems. I suppose, once I finished my last role, I was thinking around where do I see an opportunity in the market, and I'm kind of going back to my roots, but they've still been hyper growth markets over the years, and I see a huge potential as companies try to unify their systems rather than work with lots of different systems. And often these projects are born out of the finance department, either with the CFO trying to drive efficiency, or there's a strong financial element around process and system upgrades and implementations, and that will often span into other areas of the business, other functions. I suppose that's where we started the conversation of going. I had a small idea, and you worked in finance and accounting, had a successful business, and floated the idea, and it obviously caught a wind from there. And I suppose as of today, we provide services into finance transformation projects for clients and candidates, with various different systems, but the key focus is kind of ERP implementations and upgrades.
And I think that's one of the things that excite, not just working with you, because you are a good boss. It's quite weird now working together from different. I have to admit, when you walk through the door, I was like, Jesus, that's knocking back a few years, I have to admit. But when you were sort of talking about the synergies between the technology stack that you were looking at and how it works within finance and some of the clients that we're already supporting, it was kind of an avenue that I'd never really thought of. I'd kind of thought that maybe we might have got back into tech in the future, but I think both of us were kind of, when we had that discussion, we're like, tech's so broad now. There's so many businesses that recruit across everything in tech and don't necessarily specialize in an area, and actually focusing on the ERP and EPM solutions from an F&O or finance operations perspective was really key. And already some of the wins that we've generated off the back of some of our clients and opening up another avenues being really kind of rewarding. I'd be kind of interested to find out a bit more about what's your kind of plans going forward.
I suppose longer term, the purpose and the vision for the business is to set the standards for ERP recruitment. I feel very passionate about building a reputation within the industry around being the go-to kind of partners for clients and candidates, working heavily off kind of recommendations and referrals. So, we're very diligent in making sure we're thorough in validating people's credentials, whether they are clients or candidates, and what the purposes of the objectives they're trying to achieve by implementing new systems. And we're very, I say, diligent in working, credit checking, and working with the best people in the market that are going and going to deliver a exceptional service and a really care around outcomes and value add, rather than just delivering a system and walking away. Is how does that impact the business? How does it change the people? How does it achieve the key objectives that business and organisation is looking for? So, that's kind of why I wanted to specialise in something very specific rather than going the whole of tech. Everyone does the whole of tech. It's like, no, I want to focus on something that really can drive value and insight into an organisation and have a real impact outside of just staffing and recruitment. So that's the goal, is to go, look, be the best of the best at what we do and work with the best people and don't relinquish any of those kind of standards and expectations. So that's the goal. Vision at the moment is working across UK and into Europe. We're not covering every single ERP market today, but I suppose that's an opportunity for us to scale over time. But we've got the staff we've got in at the moment. We're building out networks and core vertical markets synonymous with the client base that you've got already. So kind of one of the value adds for us is that most of the key decision makers in driving finance transformation projects are stakeholders you and your team are already in contact with and have relationships with. So we can actually offer your clients a more holistic service outside of building financial teams and shared service centres. We can actually help on some of their transformational needs as well. And I think we hope as well to kind of go full circle on that in building out our network in finance transformation. And if their next project beyond systems is reorganising their shared service centres and building out their financial kind of practice, then obviously you can benefit from the work that we're doing as well. But from a client perspective, we can offer a full service across people and tech within financial shared service centres in the technical world. It's exciting.
Yeah, I think it's very exciting. I think a lot of the guys, to be fair, it's pretty eye-opening because a lot of our clients are like, look, they need this ERP exposure or delivery, and we were well aware of like some automation processes, but never kind of put one on one and be like, maybe we should be doing a bit of that, and actually looking at some of the value add that we can do. And for us, it's adding more value to the clients that we already work with, whilst also expanding on some of the relationships we've got. For me, it's also been rewarding. We've had like consultants join the team that have worked in the European markets, not an area that we kind of even looked at as a business, and they've already had great success in terms of some of the relationships that they've cultivated or worked with before and delivered on that function, which I think has been pretty rewarding from both sides in terms of delivery. I'm kind of interested to take a few steps back. Like you've obviously you've joined from a pretty big, in terms of recruitment, a large business, right? One that was consistently expanding.
Yep.
How have you found going from that world into an SME essentially, and then from an SME into a startup within the SME in order to build that? That must have been quite a big challenge.
Yeah, it's an adjustment, definitely. I think I shared it with you. Like when we did our first deal here, it's been 9 years since I'd last personally done a deal. So I've been away from the kind of the action around working directly with clients and candidates for quite some time. Been more focused on growing out divisions, leadership, strategy, etc. But actually, one of the reasons I fell in love with recruitment back in the day was actually that interaction you have with the community that you're serving, and you build friends, relationships, knowledge, know-how, insight. You're actually really interested and care about the markets that you serve, and getting back to be able to do that has been good. Definitely an adjustment, as I say. Like things have changed a bit since maybe I was doing it then. I'm really enjoying that element of it, and I think also, we're we're in an office and we're 20, 30 man strong office, and it feels properly connected. Everyone knows each other. We're all in it together. We're all asking questions for each other. We're all supporting each other. And I think as businesses scale, that element of culture can change over time. But that was a period back in my last business. I really liked that period of going, we're relatively small, but we're ambitious. We work hard. We're growing. We might haven't got all the answers, but we're figuring it all out together. And I feel like we're kind of back in there now. And that was an element I loved back in the day, and I'm really enjoying that element of feeling that connection again, actually, and going, you know what, from top to bottom, there's no layers. It's like we're all in it together. We're all working hard. Yeah, we might play a slightly different role, but we know and we care about what's happening in each other's desks, and that element of it has been. I definitely probably hadn't realised how much I missed it until I've kind of got back to it. So that's been the biggest adjustment, but it's for me it's a really positive one.
Well, yeah, I remember when I was up into Consult, when I was like pretty scared of those first calls of going into finance, never done it before, and it was quite an odd and humbling experience. And then I also remember my first deal, taking a client out and having a few beers, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
From that perspective, like in terms of like the kind of offerings you do, obviously you're doing a lot with like D365, Oracle NetSuite, Workday. Like what other kind of ERPs do you think that you'll be looking to get into in the future?
I suppose the key players that were mentioned there are SAP and Oracle. There's always emerging niche technologies as well that I think, for me, it's about having your finger on the pulse around where the market's going, what's happening. If I look at the key vendors, if I look at Microsoft as an example, it's going, well, where's their ecosystem going? What's the hottest trend? How are things changing in all of their wave releases? Making sure that I'm embedded within those markets and know where to go. So I've got no fixed agenda on exactly where we'll end up. I just want to make sure that we're focused on ERP solutions as well as improving operational efficiency and financial processes. So it might be that organisations are looking to develop some kind of standalone processes around O2C or P2P processes, and that comes with system changes that sit out of a standard ERP package. Might be more bespoke solutions, and we'd look at that type of opportunity as well, because we're already working with the right people, and I'd say 90% of the network we're growing and people we're partnering with they might be involved in finance transformation. That might be ERP projects, but they've often come from a finance and accounting background, chartered accountants, part qualified, whatever it may be, and they've had a route through accountancy, and then they've moved more into systems and processes, so they know these processes inside out, and that gives them a real, I think, value add and competitive edge when going into a project, and they're working with the financial users as well as working with either an external partner or the internal or technical team, but they've lived in that world, they know the language, they know the complexities of it. So I think as long as we're working in that sort of area, that's important to us.
I was going to say, I think you see that a lot. It's only like 23% of ERP solutions actually implemented are actually within budget and delivered on time. I think if you don't have someone that actually is doing the doing, that understands the system, it makes it incredibly challenging to actually implement it correctly and also get buy-in, because a lot of the people that will be delivering the work on the back end have to buy into the new product. And that's one thing I've noticed from speaking to some finance professionals, is sometimes there's a bit of tug of war between the tech team and the finance team, and the finance team getting them bought into delivering it. And if you have someone that's a finance head that actually understands the system and can tell them the value they're going to get out of it, it helps with that implementation problem. I mean, going back to that point, why do you think so many are over budget and not delivered on time?
I mean, it's a tough one to answer, but I think from my personal experience is, when I speak to end users that are frustrated because the project's not gone well, there's a recovery project, they've pressed pause, they've gone over budget. When I kind of ask questions and peel it back, it's often they've chosen the solution before they've gone through a thorough discovery phase and built the right sort of business case. So they've either partnered with a partner that then kind of like lets them know they can do everything even though they might not be able to do it, or the partner isn't agnostic to ERP, so they are more aligned with certain ERP solutions and systems. So, often end users get committed into a solution that might not be the best solution for their business. And I think, that at that point, when they go through, the implementation projects and then get to go live, and the system doesn't do what they require it to do, then you get wrapped up in all layers of kind of heavy customization. And that's where often things spiral out of control, and actually you get disillusioned or frustrated users to go, well, the system was working before, it doesn't work for me now. I can't get the data I want, can't get the reports out. It's more clunky. We're having to build workarounds. So I think for me, it's taking a breath at the early stages. It's engaging with experts across the industry that are more interested in your business, your challenges, your opportunities, what you're trying to achieve, and could offer insight and guidance around the best solution for you rather than one particular product, an ERP solution. So, I think the value for me would be engage with either someone like myself who can put you in contact with these people, or if you've got peers in your network that you can speak to on a consultative basis very early, putting time up front to shape the project and going, how do we start this before any decisions have been made? I think that's where most people can save a lot of time and effort and money.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think sometimes it's like as well, when you pick the wrong solution, it doesn't matter how good you hire, it's going to be challenging for them to implement it correctly and get additional buy-in. And then when it's over customized, even if they want to migrate to the latest and greatest version down the line, I know from recruiting SharePoint back in the day how challenging that can be with the amount of companies I work with that were migrating legacy data to obviously new systems or from on-prem to the cloud. And I think that can be a significant obstacle that a lot of clients need to overcome. And I think working with the right partner, or sometimes the right recruiter that understands the different ERPs and solutions that you can actually utilize and understands what's good for what and what value it can bring, can ultimately make sure that you don't spend so much time. Because I know from working with a lot of clients as well that when they've got a good ERP solution that's implemented and rolled out, it actually makes people's lives easier. It automates a lot of the processes, takes away a lot of manual tasks that they can actually do the accounting or the budgeting and forecasting that they need to do in order to actually add additional value that the finance department can do.
Well, one of the services we do offer is if people are at the early stage of trying to work out their finance transformation or ERP strategy, no decisions have been made, but they know that there's going to be there needs to be investment in those areas to modernise the way they're working, is that we can free of charge connect them to industry peers that can help them through that early stage, and have some free consultation periods to just make sure that they're asking the right questions and they're going through putting the right steps in process from the early stages. And we would do that non-obligatory because we want to make sure people are they're getting off on the right footing. So that's probably definitely something I'd advise. Whether that's going to stop all projects spiraling out of control and not going over budget over time, I'm sure it won't, but I think it can only help.
No, exactly. And like a lot of the projects, unfortunately, like when you actually get delved in, you're like, actually this can do this. So maybe we want this developed, or we can actually get this out of the box functionality. What value can that add? And then sometimes it's around like obviously being concise with actually what is the solution and what do you actually want out of it in order to deliver from that perspective. Going back to the business then, obviously you would have had a lot of opportunities out there. We're going, what was it that made you decide to start, not on your own, obviously we co-founded the business, but what was it that made you go like, look, I want to do this, Cloud2 Consult?
I was having loads of great conversations. It was kind of nice actually to get out into the market and speak to business owners and people that are in recruitment and passionate about it, all the different phases of their own particular journeys. And I was mulling over what to do myself, whether it would be going back and working for an existing business into a senior position to help them scale or take their business to the next level. And there was a number of those conversations that was happening. I think a big factor was obviously we'd worked together. I knew what you could bring to the party. I knew, I suppose, on the other way from your perspective, there was some credibility built up from our past periods of working together, which was a really, really successful time for both of us. So I think that was definitely knowing what you're getting into. Whereas if you're going out there interviewing with new clients, everyone's kind of got a veneer on. They're putting their best version forward, So you always kind of, it's a little bit of a leap of faith when you're going into something new. I think I felt like with my years of experience, I wanted to have real influence and control over decisions that were made and where the business was going and what we stood for, what was important to us. Having all of the right, information on hand to be able to make good decisions. I felt like, I've got the skills, capabilities where I can add value at that level, and that's an important factor to me now. So I had some great conversations to join other businesses, but I would never be able to have that level of control and influence unless I decided to, go it my own or with a co-founder. When we started discussing this, and I think, it's like, look, I've started a new business, but it feels like we're not at phase one because we're coming into an office. You've got podcasts running. We've got back office solutions. We've got a client base. We've got success. We've got candidates. We can plug people into an L&D framework. There's so much we can offer to attract people to come and join us on the journey. So it feels like we've got a head start. But we're new, as well, so it's exciting. So I think for me, it was about the excitement of doing something. I could create my own future with regards to what we do, how we do it. It aligned really nicely to your business. I respected you. I respected what you'd achieved. And I suppose I wanted to back myself and go, I want to be able to look in the mirror, whether it be 5 years or 10 years time, and hopefully pat ourselves on the back for the success. And, you can be proud of what we've done. And I think, that was the kind of the main motivating factors.
Yeah, I think a big one for me was trust. I think that was a big one. Like I said, when it was into Consult down the line, we were looking at potentially doing tech, but I didn't really want to, one of the things that you externally hire, if it's a bad hire, it's a terrible impact on the business. And obviously when we'd worked together for 5 years, I think that was quite a key element there around, trust, respect, and actually, I feel like we worked really well together, and there was a lot of successes there. Some of my best memories as a recruiter, well, actually all my best memories as a recruiter were within that team. And I remember quite clearly when we started out, or when I started out in your team as a little trainee recruiter, that we were not the best team. Like we were looking at the different teams in there. I remember support and infrastructure, web and dig, and some of the other teams, engineering, and literally was like looking at all of them above us and being like, how can we beat them? And obviously I saw the strategy that you implemented. Obviously I followed it, and I saw that the fact that we were actually like, okay, cool, we've caught up with support and infrastructure. Who's next? Web and dig. Who's next? Engineering. And then when I left, I was like, geez, we were the top performing team. And I think when you go through that transition and you've been led by someone that's delivered that, ultimately that leaves a lot of trust, a lot of respect. So I've got no doubt that it's going to be a success, and that was one of kind of my key drivers, especially as like it's awesome to me that it's a new business. It's awesome that it has lots of synergy, new one, and it's awesome that obviously we're working together on that journey. Like from your perspective as well, like obviously there's a lot of risk element of this. Like you're starting a new thing, it's all completely alien. What's been the biggest challenges you've had sort of so far? Have you ever had any sort of sleepless nights looking in the mirror and going, oh God? Day one must have been weird, surely.
It is weird walking into an office and go, right, we're literally starting.
No database.
No data.
Yeah.
Okay, there's data that exists in your world, but very specific to what we're trying to do. It's kind of like you're stood at the bottom of quite a big mountain, and there's a big mountain to climb, and that's quite daunting. And actually go, I've now got to perform in a job that I've not personally done for quite a few years. So how can I readjust and go and what's changed, like with regards to the market and what's needed in the market? So I think those things are like been daunting, and I came into it with my eyes wide open of going, it's not all just going to land on our laps. It's going to take hard work. It would be nice, yeah. It's going to take some hard work and dedication. And we're at that phase now. We're getting wins, which is great, but I'm really conscious that I want to put in strong foundations, strong standards, something that is scalable, something that's clear. And it takes time to kind of find that right recipe and go, right, well, this is what we're committing to. This is how we define ourselves. Anybody new coming into the business, this is our kind of our roadmap of like what we do, how we do it, our kind of DNA. So figuring all that stuff out, I'm going, well, what I did yesteryear will that work today? And there's elements that do, and there's elements that you need to evolve and change. So I suppose I've never worried around, will this be successful? I know it will. It's just going, how quickly will that success come? And how much can I replicate from before, or what needs to be, innovated and changed?
What do you think has changed?
Well, I think, for one, when we used to do business back then, everything was via reception and through switchboard and getting in contact with, our clients via direct dials, and everything's mobile nowadays. So, that's a big change. You're calling people often, sometimes on their work number, often on their personal mobile. So there's a bit of a different dynamics around how you approach those calls. I think tech has changed significantly with regards to insights you can find out around your markets, your client base. So I think where we used to make decisions around the markets and territories we'd go into and how we would scale and slice our business to give everybody opportunity, I think that was, wasn't finger in the air time, but a lot of it was intuition and trying to work out what to do. But I think nowadays you can evaluate, you can do thorough market research that can be backed up by data and insight to be able to make good decisions. So I think that's quite different as well, and I think when you look at a scale something, we're the markets we're serving are looking to drive optimization and efficiency and save cost and time for our clients and organizations. I'm like, well, there's so much capabilities in the recruitment world nowadays around that element as well, around automation and AI. So I'm also thinking, cool, well, I want to implement some standards that I know work from yesteryear, but I'm also going, what sort of stuff that I don't know that's really important today to help us be a competitive recruitment agency of the future, a more tech-led, like refine our service and make sure we are operationally really efficient as well, and we provide the technology and the tool set to people coming into the business so they can thrive in a competitive market. So that's probably one of the biggest areas that's changed since, I suppose, I was first building the teams out.
Yeah, 100%. I think the tech stack and the outreach program in terms of that definitely has changed. I think what the recruiter is doing is still pretty similar. It's just like in terms of the tools in order to identify candidates, identify clients, market map, be able to provide insights into to clients and candidates has evolved to make that side easier. But I still, like, one of the things I see is it's still incredibly relationship led. Like if you've got a great relationship with a client, you've got a great relationship with a client. If you're trying to build a new relationship with a client, they want to understand, well, what are your capabilities? Where have you proven this before? Very similar to the background. I think it's just having the kind of the backing, and that's why one of the things is the ops director Jamie always goes on at me about the amount that we spend on the technology side in terms of like the tools that we provide and all the different things that we deliver, is because I'm like, I see that as like that's future value. That's value that if we have within the business that I didn't have like all of those tools, and I know a lot of our competitors don't have their tools, and anything we can do to make it easier for our recruiters to do that makes it better for us, and ultimately speeds up the process and the value that we can add to our clients across the board.
I think you are 100% right that recruitment hasn't changed with regards to relationships, and service is paramount. But I think what it can really do is it can help you speak to the right people at the right time and be more targeted with your approaches, so you're relevant with the right information. And hopefully by doing that, giving that insight to our consultants, they can spend more time doing the things that you can't replicate or automate, and that's building relationships with people, chatting to them, getting to know their businesses, getting to know their challenges, and outperforming your competitors on a personal level. And I think that's the market itself. That's probably where I see an opportunity of going. People are investing into tech, but you still hear of poor stories, poor relationships, poor kind of like service from agencies out there or individuals out there. So I still think that element of it is paramount with the client, is that experience piece.
100%. I remember the amount of face-to-face meetings that got pretty boozy back in the day. I do less of them now, but they were thoroughly enjoyable when you built that relationship, and like they turn into more of a friend or someone you can just call up and be like, "What are you doing?" Like I was out playing golf with one of our clients literally the other week, and it was great. It's always good when a client, you're not just discussing work. There's actually something else as part of that, and it's actually a partnership and a relationship, which admittedly I think during COVID the whole market sort of changed, and now one of the things I'm enjoying more is there's more face-to-face meetings, there's more outreach, there's more of that, where it seemed to go very Zoom, like very opaque in terms of what the relationship was and what the value you could actually bring, because a lot of our role, which I think a lot of people don't understand, is actually consulting and actually providing the truth. Sometimes clients have expectations around day rates or salaries which are ridiculous. You're never going to get that, mate. But if you don't have a relationship, it's very challenging to challenge those status quos, or sometimes the tech stack, for instance, with ERP, they might be looking for something that's so niche that they're just not going to be able to identify that from either a perm perspective, but they need a contract solution because they're contractors, because the market has dictated that. And sometimes those are hard conversations to have if you don't have a relationship, and embedding yourself in those markets has been great to see. It's been really good to see the foundations of the team that we've got in place, and some of the relationships they're already cultivating. There's a couple of meetings I've been on with a couple of your team which already spring to mind, but that's for another podcast. From that perspective, really. And one of the things that I've really seen value in is just in terms of the recruitment process for the foundations of your team, the people you're bringing on, and the kind of steps that you've taken in terms of bringing them on, not rushing into the decision, making sure that you're comfortable with the people you've got within your team, because it's there has been a lot more attrition, I believe, within the recruitment market. I've interviewed a lot more some senior recruiters out there within there, and it's great to see. Was that a key decision for you in terms of your hiring process, making sure you were slowing it down in terms of bringing the right personnel?
I think your founding squad's really important. I was really clear when interviewing people and talking to everybody we spoke to, that there's founding principles that are just important to me, that need to align with your own values, and you must kind of live them, and they be real and authentic. So it just takes time to make sure that you're being you're giving yourself fair opportunity to speak to enough people, and you're being really clear around what's expected of them and what the status quo is, because what I couldn't offer is loads of warm desks that people can walk into and loads of opportunity day one. Is that something that we were going to have to build together? I also think it's exciting for those guys as well. It's it's new and it's growing, and we've got ambitions, and I'm sure they can go on and achieve some amazing things themselves as being part of the founding squad.
I mean, that would excite me more, to be honest. It's when you're cool, you would. Not the admin, not the data adding. I hate that.
Well, there's definitely been a bit of that in the early days.
Yeah, I've seen it.
We're kind of getting out of that a little bit, which is nice, but I mean, it never stops. But yeah.
And obviously, for those that don't know, it's been 3.5 months now since obviously Cloud2 Consult has started. What have been kind of some of the key highlights for you?
I think getting to know everybody in the office. Everyone's been super welcoming. Seeing some of the things that you guys all do from a social perspective, and really focusing on the people and making sure that it's a fun and engaging environment has been really nice to see. Just some wins, early days. You're going, are we going to get wins? How's this going to go? And obviously no delusion around it's just going to be easy, but also you want to make sure that you are building a strategy and you're serving a service in a market that can deliver what your hopes and wishes are. And I've come in and gone, look, it's going to be tough, but the opportunity I can see in front of us by engaging with the markets, getting feedback from both clients and candidates, and people are saying the markets have been tough, but there's also lots of optimism around the months ahead. It's been very like reassuring that I'm like, yeah, okay, what I anticipated or expected is what I'm kind of experiencing, and I'm confident with the right application, the right hires, the right dedication, and not obviously relinquishing on any of the kind of the principles and the values. I'm like, I feel like the future's really bright. So that's been nice to see that. And yeah, I suppose speaking to lots of people outside of work that have nothing to do with recruitment, and then paying interest in going what's going on, and being able to talk to them about doing my own thing, launch my own thing with a co-founder that I know, and just being able to talk to them with a bit of pride about like the next step of my personal career as well has been nice. And the amount of backing I've had from people, and you talk about trust and relationship. One thing that stood out was I used to have a big client back in the day that I worked with for a number of years, but this is going back when I first got into recruitment, so we're talking nearly 15 years ago. I worked with them for a number of years. One of the first people to reach out to me was one of my old clients. Said, I've seen you launch something new, and he got in contact and wished me the best of luck, and that was from, say, best part of 15 years ago. So it was like, wow, that's obviously somebody that I did build a relationship with. There was a lot of level of trust there. So little things like that go a long way, and make you feel like, okay, cool, well, I had a good impact back then, and I'm sure we can do the same, if not more, this time when we're building something together.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the things I've noticed is, like, you speak to a lot of recruiters out, or I've been speaking, like, it's a tough market, but for me, pressure makes diamonds. We've had like some really successful months over the last few months, and already the pipeline for this month is looking really healthy, which is nice.
Yeah.
And from that standpoint, that's if you could be successful in a hard market, you're gonna be successful in a good market.
Definitely.
And these things go in ebbs and flows. You've had COVID, Brexit. God knows what else is coming next. There's been a war kicking off. There was the housing crash and stuff like that. And some of the most successful businesses or successful recruiters, I think, go through that, understand that it's challenging, but built relationships during a challenging market, and then have seen that success afterwards. And I think one of the things that's been great as well is, like, it's only been the first 3.5 months. We're already doing placements. That Cloud2 Consult have already made placement in the first 3.5 months, and there's a lot of businesses within that space that have probably got consultants delivering this at a long time that may not have done that volume of placements, or may not have already built those relationships, and I think that's awesome to see already. Is there anything else you'd like to cover off, mate? Anything else you want to discuss?
I definitely agree. Building the work ethic that's required to be successful in a tough market will pay dividends when the tides change a little bit. But also, I think from a client and candidate perspective, I think it's easy to stay in contact with people when they're out looking, or when they're hiring, there's a need there. But actually staying in contact and being consultative and providing guidance and insight and whatever that individual might need, whether it be a client or candidate, when there's no requirements and there's no hiring happening or projects aren't kicking off, I think that gets remembered really well. So if you're doing the good job and you're providing the good service, even if there's no short-term reward for you in that interaction, I think it pays dividends, and I think that pays forward as and when the market turns and projects kick off and clients candidates are taking new jobs, things like that, they don't get forgotten. So I think doing that in a tough market, I think, can stand you apart. Well, I've seen it before many times, is like when there's a tough market, people get all the excuses out in the world and make a reason why not to call anybody or not to work harder. And it trips them up, and they're obviously not necessarily the right people for the business.
What's that age-old saying, isn't it? The harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
I've seen it time and time again.
Work hard, get lucky.
Oh, yeah, forgot about that. Work hard, get lucky. That's why it's the podcast. That's why. That's the only reason why we changed it to that. But yeah, like I completely agree with you. And you see the people that when they get those wins, it means more.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the great things I love about the culture that you've also brought in terms of the people. It impacts other people within the team, and you see that both sort of cross-pollinating, and because we are working in such close proximity, or the two businesses are. It's great to see everyone getting involved and that kind of social element, but also that work ethic element. And in terms of like, if someone like either has a bad day or a good win, there's other people there to share that success. And that's one of the things I know that when I first started, if I did a placement and I just turn around and be like, great, or get a beer out my own beer fridge, not quite as fun. And that's definitely one of the things that I missed at the beginning, and one of the things that I'm pretty proud of now. And I think it's one of those things is when there's a lot of businesses looking for remote workers in terms of recruitment, sometimes you miss that culture element, because we are people focused. And when you went on about just in terms of that candidate engagement or that client engagement, when it is a hard market, having those open forums and open discussions only helps bring better relationships for when times get easier. Do you know anything else you want to add?
No, look, well, you say 3.5 months in, I just can't wait to see what the next kind of few months look like, and maybe phase 2 or round 2 of the podcast, and share some wins and challenges a little bit later down the road when we've been doing it a little bit longer. Will be fun.
Yeah, 6 months we'll be wearing shades and be like, gangster.
Yeah, absolutely, mate.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, people, for listening. Work hard, get lucky.
Bug.
Oh, that was not screwed in properly.
I'm glad that was after.
No, still going to be in the video.
That's going to be the big.
Oh no, not the bloopers. Not the bloopers.
Yeah.
And we were all
Yep.
some of my best.
Yep.
And literally was like, there's so many business relationships. It's very challenging in terms of bringing
spiraling out of control and not going over office solutions.
Any sort of sleepless nights, looking in the mirror, going, "Oh God."
There's definitely been a bit of that in the early days.
Yeah, I've seen it.
We're kind of. Are we going to get wins? How?
6 months we'll be wearing shades and be like, gangster. Lovely.
Cheers.